In the final section of media training, we'll go over some crisis messaging, how to get out of difficult questions, difficult interviews, and some messaging related to the Rio Olympics that should help you in any of those situations. Water quality continues to be an issue, but not quite as large of an issue as we saw at the test event. That, in addition to the fact that triathlon will be at the end of the Olympics rather than at the beginning of the Olympics, don't expect that many triathletes will get too many questions about water quality. That said, ITU's position has not changed since the 2015 test event, and this is our position here. We have, since 2010, ITU adopted the higher standards for breathing water quality, which are the European Environmental Commission standards. So ITU has had water quality standards in position for the last 6 years. Those standards meet the World Health Organization's requirement for water safety testing, which recommends for bacteria testing. This was a big confusion in the media and for athletes as well as to what you should actually test for. The articles that broke in 2015 recommended testing for viruses versus bacteria, in addition to bacteria. To date, there is no scientific test that is internationally recommended, which is why the World Health Organization recommends for bacterial testing, which is what we have adopted. So per ITU rules, back in 2015, the organizing committee was required to conduct additional tests 1 year out, 2 months, and 1 week ahead of the test event. That has at this point, ITU is getting daily reports on the water quality, and they have all come back within those standards. So should international standards ever be recommended for viral testing or for any other bacterial testing, ITU will immediately comply. But to date, we are confident that the water is safe for athletes, given that we follow the highest testing standards available. Zika is obviously in the news quite a bit in the lead up to Rio. It's died down a little bit since the games have begun. Nonetheless, it's a concern for everyone traveling to Rio, and of course is still being asked in interviews. By now, I think everyone will have gotten information from their national Olympic committees on how to protect yourself, which is also in line with the IOC's position on messaging, which includes following your country's travel advice, protecting yourself with light-colored clothing, pants and long sleeves, staying in air-conditioned areas, staying away from bodies of water, stagnant bodies of water, and of course protecting yourself for anyone planning to with anyone with a partner. Okay, that's some more messaging there on Zika. The largest at-risk areas, anywhere where there's not proper ventilation, proper sanitation, that's where they're seeing Zika affect the most people. Anti-doping has obviously been quite a large issue. It's a large issue and related to any sporting event, a very important issue, but especially related to the 2016 Olympics. ITU's core values are to protect our clean athletes and to protect the sports. Triathlon to date has had very few anti-doping violations. Doesn't mean that we can sit back and relax. In 2010, ITU was one of the first international federations to implement the biological passport. And we focus on intelligent testing, focused and targeted testing. ITU continues to commit time, effort, energy, and a substantial budget to anti-doping, but that does not mean that our work is done. We have quite a lot of investigation and research, and ITU is actively promoting for more dialogue on this topic, as well as the procedures for which anti-doping violations are dealt with. In regards to Brazilian politics, the IOC's position is that they're openly understanding that Brazil is presently facing economic and political challenges. They aren't shying away from the fact that that is the situation in Brazil. However, at present, the Games are perceived as a unifier and good news. Despite street protests against the political and economic situation, which is related to the state and federal government, the Games so far has not been drawn into that. Most people are supportive of the Games, with more than 60% of Brazilians in favor of hosting the Games. The IOC stresses that it's important to remember that the Games are entering new territory, as Rio 2016 will be Latin America's first time hosting the Olympics, whereas somewhere like London was a third-time host. Here we'll cover some key ways to get out of difficult questions, difficult interviews, how to handle a difficult question without having to say something like no comment. That's probably the number one thing you should stay away from. If you really feel stuck, say something like, I'm not an expert in that field, that situation doesn't relate to my race preparation, it's an unfortunate situation, but I'll let the proper authorities respond. Turn the subject away from the conversation and provide a neutral response. So here are some examples of how you might do that. One question, as we spoke about earlier with the Brazilian economy, a hot topic here in Rio, a sample question might be, do you think the Olympics should have been held in a country struggling so much economically? This could be a really difficult question to respond to. We, of course, all are competing at the Olympics. We want the Olympics to go on. We're here, so we are part of the Olympic movement. But you also don't want to insult the organizing committee, the people of Rio. So an example of how to respond to this without having to say something like no comment or I'm not sure, is you can say something like turn it back into a positive situation and focus on, you don't have to answer the question directly, focus on a different way to respond in a positive manner. So for example, do you think the Olympics should have been held here in Brazil? It's a tough situation for any country to be in. All I can tell you is that the people of Brazil are fantastic. I've loved sharing in their culture while at the Olympics. So thanks to the public for supporting us athletes. Hopefully we've put on a show for you and we've been able to give you some entertainment and some positive memories to reflect on in the coming weeks. Okay, another sample question that could be that might be asked here. Do you think it was unfair for certain athletes to be suspended, whether that be for an anti-doping violation or for a race violation, anything? If you're uncomfortable answering this sort of question and giving your opinion on this sort of question, a way to respond to it without having to say no comment is to deflect the question and bridge back to why you're there during the interview. So deflecting and bridging back are two really important things to remember. So for example, do you think it was unfair that John Smith was suspended? You can respond by saying something like, I'm here to focus on my race. I can't comment on what happened to another athlete in their race. I think the officials can answer those questions better than I can. I'm here to talk about my race and my experience. If you have any questions for me about that, I'd be happy to respond. Okay, so that's all we have on media trading. That about wraps it up. Some important advice is to get to know your media officers. Key personnel from those media for the Olympics are your National Federation, your National Olympic Committee, and of course ITU. Your National Olympic Committee might have messaging that's slightly different than ITU's or your National Federation. Please definitely check with them to make sure that you're in line with their messaging as well.